Hi all, Larry Feldman with a lesson on what's called tuples in Python, a funny word for what other languages call arrays. Um, as usual, the best way to explain a concept is with an example. So let's go to File, New File. We get an untitled window, and let's save it as tuples to our desktop. And just for consistency, let's add the comments, title, author, and date. So to create a tuple, all we need to do is create a variable and set it equal to a left parenthesis, and then start filling in the parentheses with whatever we want. We can mix in strings and data in Python, which can be handy. In this case, we're just going to be working with numbers. So let's say data equals -4, 8, 10, 3, and 9. And you have to separate each item with a comma. Now every item in a tuple can be referenced by its position. So let me just make a comment. Data at position 0 is -4. In other words, the first item is -4, and the first item is referenced with 0, and this is consistent with our lesson on arrays that we did a few weeks ago. Data at position 1 would be 8. Data at position 2 would be 10. Data at position 3 is 3. And data at position 4 is 9. Actually, I'm going to change this number to 13 so that there's no confusion between the position number and the value at the position. Now from here we can do several things. For example, I can say, or we can say that, or we can write that print len of data. And what this does is it prints the length of the data tuple. So let's save it and run it. Notice we get 5. There are 5 elements in this tuple. We can also do other things. We can say for item in data, print item. Let's save it and run it. And notice it is printing, the first output is 5. That's still the length. But then after that it prints all of the elements of the data tuple. -4, 8, 10, 13, and 9. Okay, so now let's do something that's a little bit more useful in the math world. Let me close the shell, and I'm going to get rid of this code here. Let's say that we want to find the average in the data tuple, and by average I mean arithmetic mean. So we want to add up the data, every element in here, and then divide by 5 in this case. So there's a very easy way to do that using Python. So what we can do is we can initialize the sum to 0, And we can say for I in range 0 to length of data, and we're going to step by 1 or increment by 1. Sum equals sum plus data I. I'm going to explain this shortly. And then when that's done, we're going to say average equals sum divided by length of data, and then print average equals comma average. And this probably looks a little bit confusing. I wouldn't blame you, but let me go through it. Let me first run it to make sure it works, and then I will explain it line by line. Okay, this says 7.2. And I just did a quick calculation on the side, and that looks right. So let's go through this line by line. First of all, we initialize a variable called sum to 0. And the sum is just going to be a running total of the sum of every data element. In other words, we start at 0, but then we're going to add -4. So 0 plus -4 is 0 minus 4, which is -4. Then we're going to add 8, and we're going to get -4 plus 8 is 4. Add 10, we get 14. Add 13, we get 27. And then add 9, we get 36. Then we divide 36 by the number of data elements, which is 5. And 36 divided by 5 is 7.2. So let's come into this for loop. Sum is 0. For I in range, I is going to start at 0. It's going to stop just before length of data. And we know length of data, in this case, is the number of elements in the data tuple, which is 5. And it's going to increment by 1. So we're going from 0 to 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 5 elements. In this line, we keep updating the sum. So remember, it started at 0. We add data at the I position, or position I. Now, position I, at this stage, remember, I is initialized to 0. And so we need to find out what is data of 0. Data at position 0, or of 0, is -4, which I put in this comment as well. Data at position 0 is -4. So we take 0 plus -4, that becomes the new value of the sum, which is now -4. Then we go back to the for loop, the top of the for loop. I is incremented by 1, so it becomes 1. We take the old value of the sum, which is -4, and now we add data at position 1, which is 8. So we get sum plus 8, which is -4 plus 8, which is 4. So this for loop keeps going until we reach length of data, which is 5, and it stops at that stage. It does not come into this for loop. It jumps around it. So once we get to this line, average, we define a variable called average. It equals the sum, which at this point is let me just make a comment here. If everything was done correctly, sum equals -4 plus 8 plus 10 plus 13 plus 9. Then we divide it by length of data, which is 5. So the average, let's make another comment, the average equals sum divided by 5, which turned out to be 7.2. Okay, I know this is probably a little bit confusing, so I want to change this a little bit. Let me delete that, and I want to show you how this sum changes as the for loop iterates or runs. I'm going to add this print statement so that I can print sum as I increments from 0 up to 4, going by 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's run this. Now notice what happens here. The first sum is -4. That's just this element, data at position 0. Then we add 8. So -4 plus 8 is 4. So the sum is now updated to 4. Then we add the 10. 10 plus 4 is 14, which is reflected in this shell over here. Then we add 13 right here to get to 27. And then we add the last element, which is 9, to get to 36. So this shows how sum is updated after every number in this data tuple is included. That's it for now. I'll let you guys digest this a little bit. I would recommend watching this video a couple times. It's one of the benefits of video. You can pause it, rewind it, replay it. Watch it a few times until it makes sense. And if you have any questions, as always, just let me know. Thanks.